My next upload for the 27th of April is to address the injustice, discrimination and inequality that I've been experiencing as a mother, a married mother, as of 2015. In front of me I have documents that substantiate my experiences and my recollections of the illegalities and unlawful actions that have occurred. This is just a brief synopsis with regard to the terms applied in this situation of an unlawful care order and the unlawful actions of the Kerry University Hospital in violation of my freedom and the separation of my child. As a woman of advocacy and recovery, the experiences and intrusions that I've experienced are just indefensible. In front of me, I'm just going to briefly mention the court orders that were issued that didn't adhere to proper procedure. The 27th of January 2017, there was an application for a care order and an application to extend an interim care order. I was not provided with legal representation and I was not given a just and fair trial. That interim care order application does not meet the requirements of due process, and the matter of separation of a child without a prior care order in place also substantiates the unlawful action that I experienced. The fact that there wasn't a supervision care order present prior to the 27th of January, the fact that an emergency care order wasn't presented on the occasion of 27th of January, and the issue of an unjust and unfair procedure and a discriminatory procedure, I might add also, that falsely claimed mental instability, which is highly disputable, especially with regard to the circumstances prior to the 27th of January, when a protection order that was to be provided wasn't provided, which highlights another discrepancy of the offences and wrongdoings that I've unduly experienced. The issue, as I've mentioned in prior shares, regarding my case and the lack of legal representation and the fact that my ombudsman procedures were not acknowledged as they duly should have been, highlights also the injustice, discrimination, inequality and the obstruction and perversion of justice that I'm experiencing. The matters pertaining to any care order being implemented separating a child from his mother require there to be evidence and proof of desertion, abandonment, deprivation, etc. Not any of these factors were present, and protection of mother and child was not applied. The issue of Kerry University Hospital detaining me on 2 occasions without due process being adhered to is another offence that I've experienced and that I have relayed officially and formally to the Mental Health Commission. The issue of my child being withheld from me and the concerns that I have raised about his safety since January 2017 that were not acknowledged nor were they respected highlights discrimination that I've experienced in this matter. The issue of slander of my character with regard to misdiagnoses that I have in front of me, and with regard to breaches of confidentiality that I have in front of me, and with regard to my contact with the Department of Health on the 13th of December 2017, relaying the unlawful detainments and the violation to freedom, and the subsequent issues regarding defamation of my character, reputation and good name, and the prescription of medication that was unsuitable and inappropriate and harmful in 2017 on 2 occasions. the issue of the violation of home privacy, correspondence and family life that has also occurred since my matrimony is another issue. The individuals of the aforementioned establishments and agencies that have violated protection, proximity and privacy, and that have relayed falsehoods around the matters concerning this current abode, and that have induced discomfort and have applied programming that is not consented to, that is not ethical and that is not moral and that is not lawful. As a consequence of these applications in this abode, there has been very harmful thought processes insinuated around circumstances of my child and I. The other violations that are not regulatorily tolerable or acceptable in this current abode regard the spiritual and the physical and the mental and the harms to each facet of my identity. The issue of my correspondence being interfered with and withheld, and the issue of my current abode being a location of offences against my good name and my privacy and my rights to privacy has also been a concern that has been ignored. The issue of my child unlawfully withheld from me and those assisting offences against me are still in my proximity and still violating the laws that are to safeguard women in my position. So also in front of me are documentations from the Child and Family Agency that represent the misconstruencies and the inaccuracies that they have compiled regarding the care order of my son. This upload is for the interest of the State Ombudsman, and it is also for the interest of the Department of Justice, and it is also for the interest of the European Court of Human Rights. The individuals in my proximity that have been disturbing the peace have been of noise pollution and environmental pollution in this apartment. The relevant state agencies are aware of my applications, and there has been a delay with due process being acknowledged. So as a woman, qualified teacher that has worked for 3 state departments, that is lawfully a property owner of 2 farm holdings, whose child is unlawfully separated from her and withheld, this situation is abhorrent and a huge concern with regard to, in particular, my positive work in society. As a married woman, those disrespecting my matrimony and that have caused desertion and financial abuse and that have violated my privacy and defamed my character since 2017 are all matters that I am rightfully entitled to have addressed by means of due process. The court that has established a falsehood regarding the care order of the 27th of January without a just and fair trial and based on false information are aware of the harms my son has unduly and unnecessarily experienced. So with the threat of homelessness being placed upon my shoulders due to the individuals that have offended my rights to protection, privacy and proximity being respected, being facilitated, it's as blatant and clear that the individuals that have damaged the environment of this apartment, that have been of noise pollution, that have been utilising new developments to violate information, to access and acquire information that are not within the remit of PTRB regulations, nor within the remit or the legalities of the Constitution. So the injustice, discrimination and inequality that I'm experiencing as a married mother is not acceptable for any human being. As a married mother that's experienced desertion and financial abuse and financial theft and spiritual violence and treason during my marriage, the issues of exacerbation of those in my proximity on behalf of the culprits, and the establishment that I have just mentioned within my proximity with intent to cause further harm to my well-being, while not addressing the cost of its damages, harms and losses to my son and I, highlights huge discrepancies within this entire matter. So the European Court of Human Rights, the Department of Justice and the State Ombudsman, there are human rights violations being caused for Maria McElligott, a law-abiding citizen of a clean track record and of royal lineage. These individuals that have obstructed and perverted the course of justice, that have intruded and that have slandered, are jeopardising the safety and well-being of individuals that have been involved in a spiritually vile assault against a universal light worker. So the Child and Family Agency, the Kerry University Hospital, the other relevant bodies in my impact statement that have caused offence to my son and I'd appreciate you addressing the issues you have caused. I'd appreciate you acknowledging that you have caused very serious wrongdoings to my child and I'd appreciate the relevant agencies and establishments restoring what has been stolen on the Kerry University property in 2017. My belongings that were stolen from me, that are of very important sentimental value, are an issue that I would also appreciate being addressed. And the slander of my character and my mental health, I'd also appreciate you correcting your records and addressing the failings of the injustice, discrimination and inequality and the exploitation in this entire matter. So that's my upload for the interests of the Department of Justice. And with regard to my work in society, I'd appreciate the relevant bodies acknowledging due process and acknowledging the legalities of this situation, particularly with regard to those threatening homelessness and avoiding the debt of their damages and defamation and disrespect to my son and I.